What is a man? Not that long ago, a media company produced a documentary called What is a Woman? The simple concept was to investigate how one defines something in a time when we keep changing all the definitions of things that have been around for basically ever or a long time at least, right? We're not redefining what a man is here. Not in this episode. I've been very clear on where I stand on this point. We define a man as a biological from birth male. If you disagree, you're probably not going to like my show. But what I do want to talk about today is redefining what it means to be a man. Today, we're talking about what it means to be a man in 2024 specifically, because historically, the things that help us define us as men do actually change. I am old enough that I have now seen the changes from my grandfather's generation, which would have been known as the greatest generation. That's that World War II generation, to my father's generation and the boomer age. And now I'm watching Zennials come into their own and the beginning of what they're calling Gen Alpha. I'm not sure who comes up with these names, but most of them suck. They're kind of lame. But what I can see with clarity is what it means to be a man has changed drastically in that time period. And it's time to talk about what it means to be a man, or redefine what it means to be a man in 2024. So let's get into it. Here's the $1,000,000 question. How do men like us reach our full potential, grow into the men we dream of being, while taking care of our responsibilities, working, being good husbands, fathers, and still take care of ourselves? Well, that's the big question. In this podcast, we'll help you answer those questions and more. My name is Brent, and welcome to the Fallible Man Podcast. So let's start with what has not changed, because sometimes that's just an easier place to start. In 2018, Chris Rock stated, "Only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally, whereas a man is only loved under the condition that he provides something." Now, this hit the world kind of like a ton of bricks. A lot of people were really frustrated and flustered and found it very controversial. And then even some men were uncomfortable with it. And then they started thinking about it. More recently, an artist named Dax introduced a song to the world called "To Be a Man." This song became an overnight sensation, reaching people who had never heard of him, including me. I never heard of this artist before. My father-in-law, who falls into the boomer generation, actually is the one who shared the song with me, proving not only had I not heard of him, but this song was reaching a much broader span of men than anyone had thought possible. It's crazy that my father-in-law, who falls in that boomer generation, heard the song not only before me, but was on it. It proved that the song bridged a generational gap that most things can't. It proved that this generational gap in men didn't change the fact that most men identify with the feelings and the statements in this song, which he also quotes Chris Rock's quote in the song. It spans 4 to 5 generations of men that are hearing this song, which is just insane. The fact that any song has spanned that many generations, that many age groups, however you want to say it, is mind-boggling. Usually that's only like some of the greatest songs in history, some of the quote-unquote classics from the Beatles and Zeppelin, right? Classic rock and older songs span those generations and is a learned thing. But this song was reaching everything from down in the Gen Alphas, who don't really understand what the song is saying, all the way through at least the boomer generation, maybe farther. I can't confirm that just because I don't know anyone older than that who listened to the song, but it doesn't mean there weren't those. Now, to date, being a man continues to have some common ground across multiple generations. And unfortunately, that's a legacy that is, well, let's just say that's a legacy that we wish wasn't sticking with us, right? Those parts of it. By the way, my name is Brent, and welcome to the Fallible Man Podcast, your home for all things man. Big shout out to Fallible Nation. That's our private community. You can find information down in the show notes or in the description, depending on what platform you're joining us on. If you're part of our normal podcast crowd, or if you're catching this on YouTube. And a warm welcome to our first time listeners. Hey, there is a lot out there fighting for your attention. So it means a lot to us that you're checking us out and giving us a chance. Thank you for that. Be sure and connect with me on social media at The Fallible Man on most platforms. I'm most active on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, but mostly Instagram and LinkedIn. Let me know at The Fallible Man. Tell me what you thought of the show. I'd love to hear about it. And if you really enjoy the show, be sure and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to us. That really helps us reach more people just like you. Let me know what you think of the show, and let's get back into it. I won't waste your time just jabbering on like this. Going forward, we need to start redefining what it means to be a man in a more positive direction, because right now, the common ground across multiple generations is not a very positive thing as we define being a man. It has a lot of negativity to it. Now, at some point in history, the norm became this idea that we were only what we provided for the people around us, women, children, whatever, safety, the community. I can trace this back as far as biblical times. It may go back way before that, but that's as far as I bothered to try and trace it. A young man in biblical times could not marry until he could provide for a family. He spent years working and building to become a man of worth. That's air quotes for all of you listening, which translates to a man of means, right? That's what a man of worth, air quotes again, was a man of means. The thought is not entirely flawed, as far as working to become capable before getting tied up in relationships. However, the flaw comes in a place just of it stopping at being a man of means, right? I am a fan of young men spending the early years of their life building themselves up into the men they want to become. Chasing some goals and some dreams and elevating yourself up, building yourself up, because there's a lot of work that comes as you bring more and more people into that conversation or into that process with you. But being a man of means is not the only value that you have, as far as I'm concerned. That's the conversation that I'm trying to change. Now, you have to remember the idea that being a man of means is your value proposition comes from a different era of history. Life was simpler in the form of what there was. Harder to survive. It was a full day's work just to live for a lot of people, to make the food, to do the work, to make enough money, right? It was a full day's work just to live, which necessitated a simpler life. It was simpler in the fact that there was less to be concerned with because it was harder to survive. So that was your existence. It's just trying to do that, right? And being able to do that made you a man of means. Now let's skip forward 2,000 years or so and get a little more modern, shall we? Into 2024, like I said, or so. I didn't math that out for all of you who are, fact checking me right now as far as my numbers. We're still holding on to that value in a completely different time of life. So over the last 2,000 some odd years, we've held on to this ancient concept of becoming a man of means was our value. It's from a time when being able to be a man of means, which means you could actually take care of that life and survive, was the big picture. Don't get me wrong, there are still places where just daily life is hard days work still. That's not the case in most first or second world nations. Even in many third world countries, we're seeing a lot of technology. We're seeing a lot of extras. We see, tribal people in Africa with cell phones using Starlink, thanks to Elon Musk or whatever. Okay. There are still places where just surviving the day is a full day's work, but those are becoming fewer and fewer in the world, and more people are starting to have other options. So, what did change? We have more options. That's it. We have more options, opportunities, and possibilities than ever before. A full day's work is not necessarily like what it was as a. Now, I live in a farming community, so trust me, there are a lot of gentlemen I know who still define a full day's work as sun up to sundown, because that's still the reality for farmers. They have equipment that helps them do it on a much larger scale than ancient farmers, but it's still a morning to night kind of thing. You have more time and more means to do non-survival based things in a lot of society anymore. There are a lot of people who go to work for 20, 30, most people it's more like 40 or 50 hours a week, but you still have a lot of the week left to do non-survival based things because of modern technology and the change in the world. The majority of men tend to lean into time for entertainment, and that's where we get sidetracked. There have always been men who have had a desire to make their mark on the world, to leave a legacy far bigger than their children and their grandchildren. Men who summited mountains, discovered new lands, at least new to the people that were discovering them, not probably new to the people who were there already, sailed the oceans in search of new treasures, places, men who refused to live small. More and more men are choosing to live small. Comfort, entertainment has lessened our aspirations, but you're cut from the same cloth and the same blood runs through your veins as the men like Ponce de Leon and Genghis Khan, men who conquered the world, Napoleon, Alexander. You're still cut from the same cloth. To redefine what it means to be a man in 2024, the first thing we have to do is to choose to live bigger than the life we've been shackled with 2,000 plus years, where provider was our main source of value. You can't just be stuck in the provider role, especially as protector is becoming less and less necessary in some places. Not at all. If you watch the news, being a protector is still a very valuable thing. And presider becomes an argument these days. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole today. But you're going to have to live bigger than just the shackles of provider to change the conversation and redefine what man looks like in 2024. Now, there are 3 P's commonly associated with our role as men. Those are provider, protector, presider. Not any particular, but those are the 3 P's that are most commonly associated with our roles as men. We understand the provider and the protector. Some of you guys will understand the word presider. That means you're the person who kind of leads. That's what a presider is. Now, I'd like to suggest a few additions to that list if we're going to redefine what it is to be a man in the modern era. May I submit for your decisions or your concepts on, I'm not even using the right words. May I submit for your contemplation? There we go. There's a better word. That we add these 3 words: pioneers, pursuers, and purposeful. I tried really hard to stick with the all P's, guys, just to keep it up. I'm really, if you've listened to the show for any length of time, like I'm not that guy. I have a couple of friends who are awesome at doing those, 3 blah, blah, blah. I am so bad at those. You guys you would mock me if you understood how long it took me to come up with those 3 P's. But I really do think they fit. And here's why. Men used to be pioneers. We chase new thoughts, ideas, new places, new people, new ways to advance, new ways to improve, new ways to move forward. That same pioneering spirit that took Ponce de Leon around the world still exists in you today, and it's about time men start being pioneers again. This is a return to something we used to be. It's about time men start to be pioneers again, pursuing new ideas, places, thoughts, ideas, new advancements, new improvements, new ways to make the world better, new way to make life more amazing. It's time to pursue or to pioneer new thought processes. Men used to be pursuers. We saw something we wanted or wanted to achieve, and we pursued it with just ruthless devotion sometimes. The Wright brothers wanted to fly. We know it took 3 years for them to actually go from concept based on other people's work before them to flight. 3 years they pursued ruthlessly. That was what they did, wanting to get man off the ground. And they achieved that. And 66 years later, our obsession with flight took us to the moon. We need to return to being men who pursue our dreams that are bigger than us. Men who pursue bigger dreams and ideas, who are pioneering. We need to pursue that ruthlessly. We also need to be men who are purposeful. The samurai trained at the art of warfare and combat from early childhood all the way until death, devoted to the mastery of hand-to-hand combat, weaponry, horsemanship, and many other things. They were purpose-driven in every aspect of their life, according to historians. Their devotion to mastery of everything they did was beyond obsessive. Artists and craftsmen were lifelong trades, passed down from father to son, or if you're lucky, apprenticed out at an incredibly young age. We can't even imagine doing that with our kids these days, the way they used to do. Their intention every single day was to pursue the mastery of their craft to a beyond elite status. Now, this isn't to be confused with intentional. I talk about being intentional in your life, but to be purposeful, you have to have a purpose. That's definition number one of purposeful, is you have purpose. And you need to be purposeful, definition two, which is full of determination in your pursuit of purpose. Sorry if that was me talking in circles, but it made sense in my head. I hope it makes sense to you. You need to be purposeful. Pursue that purpose, that bigger dream, that bigger intention in your life, and pursue it with absolute determination. Adding these 3 P's will put us back on a path to redefining what it means to be a man. And once we start down that path, only time will tell. But I think the next generation will thank us if we add being a pioneer, being a pursuer, and being purposeful. It expands what we offer the world, not just for what we offer, but it expands who we are, right? We look at men by their accomplishments. Men built cities, men built civilizations, men conquered the world. That same blood still flows in you. Does it absolutely change the way we define being a man? I think so. But like I said, only time will tell. I'd love to hear what you think about it. It is Friday, so I want to share a review because I'm always grateful when you guys, as our listeners, leave a review. So today I want to share a listener review, 5-star rating. Recently, I had the privilege of being a guest on the Fallible Man podcast with Brent Dolan. Apparently, he can't spell my name. To say it was enlightening would be an understatement. Brent's approach is refreshingly genuine, and he has an innate ability to delve deep into topics, ensuring his listeners take away something valuable from every episode. Discussions are thought-provoking, and Brent's warmth and wisdom shine throughout, making you feel as if you're a part of a heartfelt conversation between friends. For anyone in search of inspiration, motivation, and education, this podcast is a goldmine. Whether you're navigating personal challenges, seeking to expand your horizons, or simply want to be captivated by meaningful dialogue, the Fallible Man Podcast is where it's at. Tune in and let Brent and his guests elevate your day. I guarantee you'll come away with a renewed sense of purpose and passion. # fallible but inspired. That was left by Diamond Well. Di has been a guest on the show a couple times and is a fan favorite. Thank you for that, Di. Di is also a fellow podcaster, so he knows just how powerful those reviews are for us. And if you'd like to hear your review, be sure and leave a review to have a chance to hear it, right? Amazing how that works. We're also doing a first of its kind contest giveaway for the show. I haven't done a contest or a giveaway probably in way too long. So the rules are down below. They're pretty simple. Follow at the Fallible Man on Instagram because that is our main social media content. Leave a review on a podcast platform and join one of our 2 mailing lists. We have a weekly and a bi-weekly mailing list. Then email me proof to info@thefallibleman with the subject line sweatshirt. We'll be giving away a sweatshirt and who knows, maybe more. I tend to get a little wild on these giveaways, which is part of the reason I don't do them as often as I used to, because I ended up giving away a whole lot of stuff and probably running my books a little thin on that. Guys, when Generation Alpha is old enough to look back across 5 generations like I am now, or I should say to look across and span 5 generations like I am now, because I'm in the middle of that, I would love for them to see that 2024 is the year we kicked off redefining what it means to be a man, because we raised the bar for ourselves and therefore for future generations, and they have an entirely different experience. So they're not echoing the sentiment of a song that's spanning 5 generations about the way it is to be a man now. I don't want them to have that same experience. And you are the key, my friends. Gentlemen, as always, thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. Be better tomorrow because of what you do today, and we'll see you on the next one.
This has been the Fallible Man Podcast, your home for everything man, husband, and father. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a show. Head over to www.thefallibleman.com for more content and get your own Fallible Man gear.